In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace the engine water pump on this BMW 550i. This is going to be located on the front of the engine. Let's get into it. In the trunk, we're just going to pull this spare tire cover up. We can access the battery under here. There's a push pin right here. This one just twists out. There may be another one on the side here. This vehicle doesn't have it. You just want to pop those out with a trim tool. And just grab this cover and it just twists out. Now we're going to disconnect the battery. Use a 10mm wrench. Loosen up the negative terminal. Take that off, slide that out of the way. We're going to remove this cover, use a 10mm socket. There's 4 nuts on top. Take those out. Grab the cover, slide it up, out of the way. And disconnect the connector for the mass airflow sensor. Just push down on the tab, slide that off. Loosen up this worm clamp. Just use a straight blade screwdriver. That's good. Using a straight blade screwdriver, loosen up the worm clamp here on the throttle body. Oops. Then just grab the snorkel, slide it off, and it comes right out. Now we're going to take the cover off the airbox. There's clips. Just remove the clips, just push down on the tab, release it. There's 2 right here. This one is upside down. Slide that off. You can take the air filter out if you want. Using a T30 socket, we're going to take the screws out. One here. One right here. And there's one right here. Grab the airbox. Comes right out. We're going to remove this cover. Take these bolts out. Use a T30 socket. And just grab this cover, it slides up. Over here, we have these cables, and pop these out. The retainers. And then if you want to, we can just slide this out of the way, or if not, you're gonna open this cover right here. I'm just gonna use a pick. It's just like a door, just to open it up. And you can see, take this cable, pop that out. That's disconnected. Then we can use a trim tool or a pick. Just pop that off. And then you can set this whole thing aside. pop this hose up. Just push that out of the way for now. There's a cover right here. We want to take this cover off. Using a T25 socket, we're going to take these screws out. There's another one down there. I just grab this panel, slide this up out of the way. Disconnect the connector, just push down on the two tabs on the sides. Slide that out of the way. Now I'm going to use a 6mm socket. Take this bolt out. And you might want a drain bucket underneath because you're going to lose some fluid. Just grab that. Take that off. Now we're taking a 5mm hex socket, and down here we're going to disconnect this pipe down below. This is another cooler pipe. There we go. Loosen that up. Go pull that bolt out. Grab the pipe. Pull that up. Again, you're going to lose some fluid. Just have a drain bucket underneath. Just pick that up. Just push that out of the way. Now we're going to lift up on the fan, and on the driver's side, there's actually on the bracket a hinge, so you can fold that in so that you can get past the hoses. Fold that in. And this will slide up. We're going to take this belt off. I'm going to use a T30 socket. The tensioner is right here. Almost like you're tightening the tensioner. And just slide the belt off the tensioner. And we'll just take the belt off completely, off the alternator, the idler, and the crank pulley, and off the power steering pump pulley. Remove this lower panel. Use a Phillips head screwdriver. Just loosen these screws up. They're going to stay with the panel. Should be another one there. Just twist it a few turns. And grab the panel, slide it back. You want to drain the coolant system. On the base of the radiator, there is a drain. This vehicle, the part to twist is broken, so we're not going to be able to do that, but you want to twist that and make sure you have a drain bucket underneath and drain the coolant out. For us, we're just going to take this hose off to drain the coolant system, so we'll get that from above. And I'm just using a pick. Just pull up on the clip underneath here. Put that in service mode, and make sure you have a drain bucket underneath. And wiggle the hose back and forth. Very carefully, I'm just going to use a pry bar. Just pry this out a little. I'm just going to take the clip off. It's just holding me up a little bit. Put that on after. There it goes. And we'll let that drain. I'm just going to take the coolant reservoir cap off. It's going to help it drain better. Disconnect the connector right here. Just push on the lock. It slides right out. There's another connector down here. Push on that. Slide that out. I'm going to take the hose off. I'm just using a pick. Just get under the clip. Slide the clip up. That's good right there. Or you can take the clip off completely. Grab the hose. Take that off. I'm going to do the same on the upper hose. Take the clip off or slide it out. There we go. Oh, a little more coolant. Make sure the drain bucket's in the right spot. Now we're going to remove this lower hose. Same thing, just take the clip, pull it out with a pick. That's good. Grab the hose, slide that off. Oh, more coolant. Now we're going to take the pulley off. Use a 10mm socket. Loosen these up. If you need to, you may have to hold the pulley with something. You could use some type of a strap, or even putting the belt back on temporarily just to get these to loosen up. That works as well. Just grab the pulley and slide it off. I'm going to have to tap it with a hammer. There we go. This hose right here, we need to remove this, but you can see the clip is at the top, so you can't access that. So you can try to twist the hose, get the clip off, or you can take it off the other end and then twist the whole hose. There we go. So we'll just twist it. Pop this clip out. Pull that clip out. Just take a straight blade screwdriver just to help pry this out. And pull that off. A little more coolant dripping out. Now we're going to take the bolts out of the water pump. Use a 10mm socket. There should be 5 bolts. There's one back here. And there should be one more on the bottom. There's one more bolt at the base of the water pump. Unfortunately, you have to take the crank pulley off to access that. It's in the way, so we're going to go take this off next. There's a stretch belt that goes around the AC compressor. We have to get that off. We're going to use a 1 1/16 socket, and you want to go clockwise. And I'm going to take a screwdriver, straight blade screwdriver. It doesn't really matter. Just try to pry this out. As you turn it, you can take the belt right off. Just like that. That's as far as you gotta go. I'm gonna take the bolts out. I'm gonna use a T45 socket. Oops. Take those out. Now there's a washer. Take that off, or a spacer, and slide that off. Now using the 10mm socket, take that lowest bolt out. Take that out. Now we can take the water pump off. I'm just gonna have a drain bucket underneath because we're gonna lose a little coolant. There's some areas that you can pry out. There we go. Pry that out a little bit. Just grab it. I'm gonna wiggle this out. There we go. There it is. We're gonna transfer over the thermostat. Use a 10mm socket. Take these bolts out. Just grab the thermostat. Just tap it off. There you go. There's the gasket. Pull the gasket off. You're going to replace the gasket. Take the new gasket. Get this lined up. This only goes on one way. Put the bolts in. Tighten this down. Now we'll torque these to 84 inch-pounds. Move over the coolant temperature sensor. Use a 22mm socket. Take that off. There's a little gasket. You want to replace the gasket. Take the new seal or gasket. Get that started. And we're going to torque this to 10 foot-pounds. That's good. There's an O-ring that's going to go inside here. Just get that lined up. There we go, that's lined up. Make sure it's not twisted. You're going to take a little bit of silicone paste and just lubricate the O-ring. And right here, we'll just put a little on here, just a thin coat. That's good. And this gasket's gonna go. Get that lined up. And press that in. That's good. And just take a rag and just some brake parts cleaner and just clean around the surface. Maybe there's a little gasket material from the old water pump. This O-ring right here, it's a good idea to replace that. And then just put a little silicone around that. And just make that going on easier. And you can put a little on this pipe too. Just clean that up. That's where the O-ring is on the inside of the water pump. All right, that's good. Take the new water pump. Line those pipes up. You want to push that on slowly. Go back and forth a little bit. Here we go. And get the bolts started. These bolts that are down below and then the one over here are the smaller bolts. And the longer bolt is up top. That's the long one right there. I'll snug these down. Now I'm going to torque these to 84 inch-pounds. I'm just going to cross just to tighten it down evenly. There you go. You can go around again if you want to double check. Those look good. Yep, those are good. Now take the crank pulley, the harmonic balancer. Get that lined up. There is a pin. Make sure the pin lines up in the hole. Make sure you put the washer on or the spacer. Get the bolt started. Now tighten these down. Alright, those are all snug. Now we're going to torque these bolts to 25 foot-pounds. You should just be able to hold the pulley from spinning. I'll just alternate just to tighten it down evenly. And then eventually just go around and torque them all. There you go. And you can go around and double check if you want. I'm going to put the AC belt on. I'm going to go over the crank up to just the base of the compressor, AC compressor. Just hold it there. There is special tools you can use to get it on the pulley, but you can do that without it. Could even use some wire ties sometimes, but we'll just hold it there, going clockwise. Just get it started. Once it's started, it kind of works its way on. And just keep spinning it around till it's all the way on. Almost. One more turn. There we go. It's all the way around the AC compressor and on the crank. This lower coolant pipe. Push the lock back down for the clip. Push that in place. And this hose is actually going to go over that. That's locked in. And this coolant pipe, close the lock on that. Get that lined up. Lock that down. This pipe right here. Push the lock down. Slide that on. The upper hose. Make sure the lock is on there. Push that in place. There's a little tab. You want to line that up with the hole. Connect the connector. That's good. And the other connector down here. Push that in place. Now take the water pump pulley. Get that lined up. Get the bolt started. I'm just going to use a small pry bar just to prevent the pulley from spinning. And I'm going to torque these bolts to 84 inch-pounds. If it makes it easier, you can put the belt on first and then torque them. I'm going to put the clip back on the lower radiator hose. Get that lined up. You can put a little coolant on the O-ring or some silicone. Get that lined up. And lock it in place. I'll put this panel up. Get this lined up. I'll get some of these started. It's gonna go that way a little bit. And on the sides. And this back one had a Phillips head screw. And tighten these all down. Snug those down, put this panel up, get it lined up. And take a Phillips head screwdriver. Oops. And get the screws started. Good. And the rest of the panel. There you go. Now take the serpentine belt, slide it down. To go around the power steering pulley, around the idler, around the alternator, and around the crank pulley. We're going to go back under the tensioner pulley, and then it's going to go around the water pump. But it's a little tricky to do all that, so we'll just have it off the tensioner pulley like that. And with the T30 socket, pull that in place and slide the belt over the tensioner. Just make sure it's not twisted. It's around all the pulleys. That looks good. And remove the cardboard if you put that there to protect the radiator. I'll take the fan assembly. Get this lined up. All the pipes out of the way. Over on this side, you're going to fold that tab down, just in between the hoses, right there. Now slide it in place. That's good. Connect the connector, lock that in place. Now take the hoses. They're going to connect to the cooler. Just twist that in place. You should replace the O-rings. You can just pop those off with a pick. Put the new ones on. Get that lower one lined up. And get the bolt started. Make sure it's all the way down. And we'll tighten that down. And snug that down. That's good. Now take the upper hose, line that up, put the bolt in, and we'll get that started. And tighten this one down. Take this cover, just line this up, and just get it lined up. Oh, it's gonna get moved over. There we go. And it's pushed on, and put the screws in. Get those started, snug those down. One in the middle here. On the sides. Take this pipe, get this lined up, push it back in place. Now take this cover, get this lined up. Take the cables, push those in the retainer right there. I'm going to reconnect this. I'll put the cable back in place for the hood release. Close that down, and on the side, push that into the retainers. I'll take the bolts, get those started. And you can kind of see where the bolts were when you took it off. So you want to get it lined up. And just make sure this is lined up in the center. You can snug these down. And go to the corner. Make sure that looks like that's lined up. Tighten all these down. Everything looks good on both sides. You can close the hood and just double check, but everything should line up the way it came out. Take the air box, get that lined up in the right position. Push that in place. Put the bolts in. snug those down. Put the air filter in the air box. Top of the air box, get that lined up. And clip this in place. There we go, let's clip this in. Take the connector, plug in the mass airflow sensor, take the snorkel, get this lined up. Slide it over the airbox and over the throttle body. Tighten down the worm clamps. And just snug it up. Same on this one. That's good. Take the cover. Line the cover up on the studs, put the nuts on, and tighten these down. And take the negative terminal, attach it to the battery. Now we'll tighten this down. And that's snug. Give it a wiggle, make sure it's tight. That's good. Take this cover. Position it in place. The push pin, slide that in place. If you had another one there, you want to push that in, and take this cover and let it down. Now you want to fill the coolant system with the appropriate coolant until you get to this max line. There's a level in here, so fill that up to max. When that's at max, we're going to start the engine with the cap off. Let the engine run for about 1 minute. You may notice that the coolant goes down. After a minute, you want to top it off so that that's back at the max line. While the engine's still running, put the cap on. And then you want to run the engine until it gets to operating temperature, making sure the engine doesn't overheat. After that, we're going to shut the vehicle down, let it cool completely, make sure it's nice and cold because you don't want any pressure in here, and then you're going to double check the level. Take the cap off, make sure there's no pressure. And then you're going to adjust the level again so that it is at the max level. You can see the little keyway on the side. So that should float like that to max. And then you're good to go. On this vehicle, when we took off the coolant fan, the oil cooler is attached and we lost a little bit of oil, so we want to top that off. Take off the engine oil cap. And if you know roughly how much oil you lost, you want to add that amount. We lost a little less than half a quart, so we're going to add the appropriate oil. That's good. Take that out. Put the cap back on, and then you can check the level inside the vehicle. Now we're going to check the oil level. We want to start the car, let it warm up. Now we're going to use this to navigate the screen, press in the center. And we want to scroll down to the service, so we're just going to push the whole thing down. Now we're going to go down to select service info. We're just going to use this as a joystick, push the whole unit down and then select that, service info. And We can see oil level. So you're going to scroll down to oil level, press on that, and this screen's going to come up. Now you have to let this run for about 15 or 20 minutes before you're going to see this. So as we can see, our vehicle is fine, we're good to go. If it's low, obviously you're going to want to adjust accordingly. Now that you're all back together, you're good to go.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.